All right, today we're not just retelling a myth, we are unsealing a dossier, a critical case study of one of history's most tragic figures. We're going to examine the profound celestial injustice right at the heart of her story. So, let's dive in.
Our investigation really starts with this idea. We're trying to look past the monster, past the legend of the Gorgon, to find the real human story that's been trapped for centuries under all these layers of myth and fear.
Now, the lens we're going to use for this is what's known as the inverted hero's journey. So instead of a character rising up to glory through their trials, this framework actually maps a descent, a story of how a devout priestess is just systematically broken down and remade into a monster. Okay, let's begin the journey right at the start, Medusa's ordinary world. And this isn't some world of darkness. It's actually one of light and incredible devotion, all happening inside the sacred walls of the Parthenon. Before the curse, the dossier actually describes her as a vessel of light. Think about that. She was a mortal woman whose whole identity was built on her unwavering piety. Her world was all about quiet faith, just living in the rhythm of sacred rituals and marble shadows. But within this pious life, she had what the old texts call a dangerous gift, her unbelievable physical beauty. Her grace, they said, could rival the immortals. And this very thing, which should have been a blessing, instead acted as a lure for divine envy. It really becomes the catalyst for her downfall. And that, of course, brings us to the moment her world completely shatters. In this inverted journey, this is the call to adventure that she never ever wanted to answer, an intrusion that changes her life and not for the better. On this, the dossier is crystal clear. Poseidon is the primary architect of her ruin. His desire is shown as this predatory force of chaos, a whim that just steamrolled over sacred boundaries and transformed Medusa from a priestess into a victim of pure divine ego.
And here it is, the point of no return. The violation happens inside the very walls of Athena's temple. The sanctity of her life, her body, her entire world is just irrevocably broken. That threshold has been crossed, and there is absolutely no going back to the ordinary world.
So, now let's get to the very heart of the injustice, the ordeal. This is the moment in a normal story where you'd expect an ally, maybe a mentor, to show up. But instead, the very goddess Medusa served her entire life becomes her antagonist. So we've got two major players here. You have Poseidon, the perpetrator, the architect of ruin. But then you have Athena, who takes on the role of the cold judge. Instead of offering her protection, she's the one who dishes out the punishment. Medusa finds no allies. None. Her cries for justice are met with cold silence. Athena doesn't see this as a crime against a person, but as a ritual pollution of her temple. And in a horrifying, unjust twist, the victim is recast as the villain of the story. This quote from the source text just perfectly captures the tragedy. The punishment isn't just physical, it's a complete and cruel rewriting of her soul, where the very idea of divine justice becomes nothing more than a tool for spiritual torture. And the punishment itself is swift and just horrifying. Athena's sort of transformation falls. Her hair, once the symbol of her beauty, erupts into a nest of writhing snakes. Her skin is sealed in bronze scales, and her gaze, once filled with devotion, is cursed to become a weapon that turns all life to stone. Her humanity is just stripped away, piece by agonizing piece. Okay, let's move to the final stage of this twisted journey. Normally, a hero would return with a gift for their community. Medusa's return, it's a permanent and solitary exile. She becomes the Gorgon. And what is a Gorgon, really? Well, the dossier defines it as a living monument to unhealed trauma. She is forced to exist as this boundary marker between life and death, a symbol of a pain that the gods themselves refuse to acknowledge, let alone fix. And here we see the ultimate cruel irony of her curse. She was redesigned into a monster so terrifying that no one could ever harm her again. This twisted form of protection is actually a sentence of eternal isolation, sealing her away from any chance of connection or healing. So her victory is a complete inversion of a true victory. Her so-called resurrection isn't a glorious rebirth, it's the birth of a terrifying legend. Her return is an exile where she reigns over a grim kingdom of her own victims, silent stone statues. And the final insult? Her journey ends with her severed head being used as a weapon on Athena's shield, making her a tool for her abuser for all time. As we get to our final assessment, the dossier leaves us with this incredible paradox. Was Medusa really the monster, or was she just a mirror, reflecting the monstrous cruelty and injustice of the powerful gods who created her in the first place?
And so, this analysis suggests we really ought to reframe her legacy. The main takeaway isn't the terror she became, but the innocence that was so violently stolen from her, first by the tide of Poseidon's desire, and then by the cold, hard judgment of Athena.
Which leaves us with one final, haunting question to think about as we close this dossier. In this story of divine power and mortal suffering, who was the true monster?